Hello, friends, and welcome to Bottled and Bond, a discussion of the James Bond movies and lore alongside spirited companions. I am Mike Scott, and I have been watching James Bond movies for nearly 30 years, but have never really taken a deep dive into the history and lore of the film franchise. So we are going to delve into each of the 25 Eon-produced movies. During this episode, we will be sampling a spirit and/or cocktail that would pair nicely with this movie. Today we'll be discussing the movie that started it all, the first James Bond theatrical release, Dr. No. So find your cigarette case, prepare your favorite cocktail, shaken not stirred of course, and leave your hat at the door while we decide whether Bond's first big screen outing still holds up over 60 years later. This is episode 001, Dr. No. Okay, well, before we start with the movie, we're going to do the companion beverage. The Bond's first drink is a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. He actually says mixed in the movie, but same thing. We prepared it with Smirnoff, dry vermouth, and a lemon peel. It's basically like 6 parts Smirnoff to 1 part vermouth. Pretty tasty.
We prepared it.
My wife prepared it. You are correct. She was a bartender at one time in her life, so yeah. But it's pretty good. I mean, Smirnoff, I'm not a big vodka guy, but it's good. It's tasty.
When I was in college, Smirnoff was the big vodka to buy
Yeah.
because otherwise you were buying vodka in like plastic bottles from the bottom shelf.
Right.
So
Just
we were
one step
thrilled.
up. Yeah.
Yes, we were thrilled when we could get Smirnoff.
All right. So let's start just with the plot summary. James Bond is sent to investigate the disappearance of 2 intelligence agents in Jamaica. He dodges several attempts on his life, discovers the mystery may be solved at Crab Key, where he meets Honey Rider. Bond then loses his companion Quarrel and is captured by henchmen. After a brief respite at a bed and breakfast, Bond meets Dr. No. They exchange insults, Bond and Honey are imprisoned, and 007 is saved by his lucky loafer for the second time. He sabotages the command center, kills Dr. No, rescues Honey, and enjoys a little slap and tickle on a boat for the first and most certainly the last time, I assure you.
Yes.
Thus ends Dr. No. So we'll start with introductions. I am now on like 30 years of watching James Bond movies. My first one was GoldenEye back in 1995. I also played the video game, which Charlie here, I'll introduce him in a second, was not familiar with. That there was a huge video game based on GoldenEye that everybody my age played. I really didn't watch anything other than the Pierce Brosnan movies when they came out. I think sometime in the early 2000s, I started, watching all the old ones. I went back to like, I think I went to like Half Price Books and I got like all of them on VHS tape. Look it up, kids.
VHS.
For all the kids that are going to be listening to this one.
I know, right?
But yeah, I had all the tapes. I watched those, and then I just kept like upgrading to the new media. So later this year, supposedly the 4K of the Sean Connery movies are coming out. That's kind of my history. I wanted to do this to kind of delve even deeper, reading the books and everything. But now to introduce my co-host today, I got my fellow 00 agent, Charlie. So why don't you talk a little about your history with the franchise?
Yeah, well, when I started watching James Bond, I don't think VHS existed yet. Or at least people
Nice.
didn't have it. But there were, my dad was a big fan. He had all the books. And also, like TV channels will do, there would be certain times where there might be a James Bond marathon on. And so you could watch a whole bunch of them in a row. And so as kids, we just thought they were outstanding. I mean, all the spy gear and all the intrigue and everything, the cars and everything. So my brothers and I loved those movies and we watched them bunches of times. So I've really enjoyed the movies throughout the years. I mean, I was, since I'm older, I remember the big deal when okay, Roger Moore is not going to do it anymore. Who's going to be the next James
Right.
Bond, right? I've
Right.
been through that who's going to be the next James Bond thing several times
Yeah.
throughout the history, and it always is fascinating to see, especially the first one of each actor, to see what they're going to be like and how
Right.
it's going to go over.
Yeah, now we're on what, 4 years since Daniel Craig hung it up, so who
Yeah.
knows when we're gonna get the next Bond. But,
I know. But, you notice there still are articles
yeah,
speculating who it's gonna be. It never goes away. It's a big enough franchise that, it's news when people
right.
think they might know who's gonna be the next one.
Yeah, you see so many names. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was, the guy that played Kick-Ass, is one of his more
Oh,
famous
really?
roles. That's one that I saw. But, yeah, yeah, hopefully, we do more of these episodes and maybe we get a special breaking news episode where they announce who the new Bond is, and then
Exactly.
we can speculate on that for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll talk about the history with this particular film. So, as I said earlier, I watched Doctor No. I probably watched it, early 2000s, on tape, but this is probably the Bond that I've seen the most because for me, I like to do a rewatch from the beginning, and sometimes I just can't get through all of them again, and if I'm being
How
honest.
do you allow yourself not to get
I know.
through them all,
Yeah,
Mike,
I
with
know,
your obsessive
I
compulsiveness?
know. But, I also have fallen asleep to this one more than any other ones. It's not as an insult on the movie, but, yeah, I do the rewatches a lot. So, how about you? When do you remember the first time you watched Doctor No?
I know.
Mm,
Because, back then it was on TV,
yeah.
right? And so you'd catch bits of movies and, it's been quite a while. So I don't really remember the first time I saw it.
But it was probably, like, in the '70s.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely in the 70s,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Okay, well, so we'll kinda start now talking about the man in the silhouette. So that kinda brings you to the opening of the movie where, there's, the camera's looking down what looks like a gun sight, and a guy walks into view, and he turns to the camera and shoots. And that's gonna be in every movie you see from this point on. Just an iconic opening.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this entire movie in a while, and I was excited to see that, like, that element of the beginning of the movie was there from the very beginning. Like, they obviously had their idea of what it was gonna be,
Right.
and I started to take notes that there were no, like, dancing naked women in silhouettes, and then it came
And then
in.
there they are.
Right
Yep.
when I thought it wasn't gonna be there it was.
Right.
They knew everything, right? They had it all down.
What's funny about this one too is these days, Bond movies are known for like iconic theme songs. Like they all have their own.
Yeah,
This one, the theme song is the original theme song, which I thought was kind of
which
cool.
is fantastic.
Yes, yes, it is. So, okay, so we open on that, and then we go to Jamaica, and like the first scene of the movie, actually, we don't see James Bond. Of course, we start with um, three blind men are walking down a street in um, Kingston, Jamaica, and then we move to like some sort of club, gentleman's club or something, maybe not that kind of gentleman's club, but one of those clubs. And these guys are playing bridge. One of the guys has to get up and leave, and he goes back to his car, and the three blind guys all shoot him and put his body in a car and drive away. Then we see later on a woman in a house, which you made the comment to me earlier about, or yesterday, about the you loved the bookcase thing that
Oh my
folded
gosh.
down.
Yes.
Uh,
That was so great because as kids, we thought it would be so great to have my brother actually knew a kid where their parents had built a house and they actually put secret passages from like the guy's study to upstairs in their bedroom and things like that. And we just,
nice.
I mean, so a bookcase that pulls down and that radio is back there just seems like it would be
Yeah.
so awesome.
It would be until the guys came in and shoot and kill
Yeah,
you,
that part
like
of it didn't go
what
so
happened to
well.
her. So,
Yeah, that didn't go so well.
so the guy's name was Strangways. He is an agent for MI6, which is a British intelligence service. Um, so he, and then the woman, which her name for some reason is escaping me right now. She also, she was like his assistant. I'm going to deviate a little here, and I'll talk more at the end. But in the book, like there was a strong implication that everybody thought that those two were sleeping together and that they just ran off together instead
Oh,
of instead of
interesting.
just disappearing. Yeah, so I thought that
Yeah.
was a interesting change. I think they
You don't
kind
have
of
time for that in the movie. They just find him dead.
yeah, they may have kind of like mentioned it a little bit, but not the same way.
Yeah.
So, we see her get shot and killed, and then they take her away, and that's when we are taken back to England, and there's like a I don't know reporting bureau or something for MI6 where they were supposed to check in, and one of the guys there reports that the guy's not checking in, Strangways. So um, from there they say get James Bond. And that's where we will go to the section of this podcast where we talk about the man in the silhouette.
I really enjoyed that scene in the sense that like they set up that whole scene just to have a room full of people listening to like the secret radios from around the country,
Right.
obviously, that are checking in, and then that guy at the master table and everything. And,
Yeah.
that kind of fascinated me because, there probably is something like that.
Yeah. And something to point out too with that is like this was still early 1960s.
Yeah.
England, United Kingdom had all kinds of, colonies all over. So
Right.
Jamaica was still a colony at that point. So,
Uh,
um, I think that's talked about a little more in the book, but it's, I think
yeah, they had to
it's
take
just
care
a
of their
known thing.
empire.
Right. Yeah. It was just a known thing then,
Yeah.
but just something to think about. So, our next scene, we go to the Le Cirque Club, which is just some sort of like little
Appears to be a
casino-y kind
casino. Yeah.
of in London, and we see a guy walk in looking for an agent to give him a message. So we get our first Bond girl. She actually shows on here first. She's playing Baccarat, which we should have, practiced playing Baccarat before this so we could explain
We really should. Yes, I know.
and understand
I
it.
didn't really follow what was happening in the game. I know. If you're supposed to be able to tell what's good and what's happening,
Right.
I was not following.
So we are on her, and she keeps losing to some mysterious guy. And she strikes up a conversation with him, and that's where we get the iconic line, Mr. Bond, James Bond.
Yeah.
So, and that's where we meet Mr. Sean Connery.
I noted that. But you know what? A couple other things about that scene. I don't know if you've been to a casino recently, but all the people in that casino are wearing like dinner jackets and, are dressed, totally dressed. And, you go today, there were no like just, old pensioners sitting at slot machines
Right.
in that casino.
Didn't see a whole lot
Chain
of slot
smoking.
machines in there.
No, I know, but I mean, it was obviously a different time as
Yeah.
far as how people dressed to go out and do something like that. And then, um, there's the line to give him my card, and people still carried cards with their name and information on it,
Right.
right? I mean, now we don't even really have business cards, barely, right? I mean, there
Right.
was a time when we all carried business cards, but I enjoyed those little indications of when the movie was made and what kind of things were happening at the time.
Yeah. And so we meet Mr. Sean Connery. That is, he played James Bond for 6 official movies. There was a 7th movie that, who knows, maybe if this little podcast goes well, we'll cover that one because I've actually never seen that 7th movie.
Seriously?
Never Say Never Again. That's the one from the 80s.
Well, okay, so for people who were like really alive in the 80s, it was very exciting because Sean Connery was back, right?
Yeah.
So we all went to see it because you were just happy, hey, Sean Connery's back. We have to go see this movie.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure in retrospect, it's sort of like, oh, this is unofficial. But at the time, we were, we didn't know. There was no Wikipedia. We didn't know what was official and wasn't official, right? You just knew a Bond movie was coming out and Sean Connery was in it.
I think it would have been a bold choice if Sean Connery looked like he looked from like Last Crusade in that Bond movie instead of his nice hairpiece and everything, which we'll talk about hairpieces as we go along with these movies because sometimes it looks better than others. I think it was very minimal here. He hadn't lost his hair yet, but in some of the later ones, including spoiler alert, one of my least favorite James Bond movie, it's pretty obvious. But so yeah, Sean Connery, born in 1930 in Edinburgh, So he's a Scotsman, working class parents, really not a great upbringing. I do have his biography. I think I'm going to read it and kind of get some more biographical information, as we go along with his movies. Before he was cast in this, he was primarily known for TV work. Don't know anything specific, but he really didn't have a big pedigree. I believe Ian Fleming didn't really like him as Bond.
Oh,
Didn't see
really?
it. Yeah, because
Yeah.
in the books Bond is Roger Moore plus Timothy Dalton. I guess more Timothy Dalton is, I think, the one that a lot of real aficionados think that's the one that was most like the one in the books.
Well, it would be weird, of course, to be an author and obviously everything's in your head and you've been writing these books and you can, envision the entire thing in your head. And then now someone wants to make a movie
Yeah,
and it's just never possibly going to look exactly like you were imagining it.
right. And unfortunately, the author Ian Fleming, he actually died right after Doctor No came out, so he never even got to see From Russia with
Oh,
Love.
wow.
Yeah, so he died of a heart attack. I think he was only like 56 or something. So that was sad.
Well, then the movie people didn't have to worry about whether he was going to like it or not from then on. They just
Yeah,
said, well, now we can do whatever we want.
right. So one other thing about Sean Connery is that he actually entered the Mr. Universe contest. So he was a pretty
Seriously?
built dude. Yeah,
Wow.
that was kind of one of his claims to fame. So
Built for 1960, whatever.
right.
Yes.
So going back to they're playing cards in the club, and we're introduced to Sylvia Trench. That's the first, and we'll call her a Bond girl. I think she's a Bond girl. She gets enough screen
Sure.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
mean, well, she gets some time with him.
yeah.
I think that counts.
Yeah. So Bond leaves, goes to MI6 headquarters, and that's where we'll do this section that I call "Keep Your Friends Close." So this is kind of talking about supporting cast. So two big supporting cast members show up here. You'll see them in pretty much every Bond movie. I think maybe there might be one or two where there's no Moneypenny. Maybe we'll get there, but we see Moneypenny. It's played by a Canadian actress named Lois Maxwell. She was a year older than Sean Connery, and the reason she did this movie was that her husband had suffered like a massive coronary incident, and she needed the money.
Oh, wild.
Yeah. And there was like back and forth about her either doing this role or the Sylvia Trench role. And I think
I guess this one worked out.
yeah, I think so. She ended up doing, I want to say, like 13 movies as Moneypenny.
Wow.
So, I mean, she still looked younger than Roger Moore. We'll talk about that later. So,
Do you know how old she was or the character was?
well, in the movie, she was 33.
Okay.
And I read
How old's Bond in the movie?
he's 32.
Around that age?
Yeah,
Okay.
32.
Okay.
Because one thing about Doctor No is, we're kind of dropped in on James Bond. I mean, we don't get like an introduction,
No.
beginnings of James Bond until a much later movie. Not counting the other non-Eon produced Bond movie of the 60s called Casino Royale, which is another one I've never seen with, I believe Peter Sellers is.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think it's Peter Sellers is in it, and so is Woody Allen, I believe.
I mean, I like Peter Sellers.
Yeah,
That
I
would
mean,
be
he was-
interesting.
he was
But
great.
it's hard for me not to think of him as Inspector Clouseau, right?
Right.
I mean, another terrific
Or Dr.
lawman.
Strangelove.
Right, exactly. Or 5 other people in that movie.
Right. So James Bond, and this is going to be an ongoing thing. First off, he puts his, throws his hat on the hat rack and has a little playfulness with Moneypenny. You're going to see a lot of that over the years with all these movies. I did read,
Yeah, but it's a terrific little banter.
It is.
Right?
It's always
like
great.
I find it enjoyable.
you kind of wonder, does she really kind of have a thing for Bond? I feel like she
I think she does.
does, but she also knows that it would be stupid to
Yeah.
try to do anything with him. But I did read that Lois Maxwell, she tried to, build like a little backstory for him. And it was like they were actually maybe together a bit romantically back in like Naval Academy, whatever the British equivalent of like Naval Academy, because they were both,
Yeah.
working there. So that was an interesting little tidbit of it. But there's a great book called James Bond Archives that I'm reading along with this that has all these like little interview snippets with all of these people, cast and crew, through various times. I mean, I think that the interviews might all go up to even some of the present for any of the people that are still alive. So, um, get a lot of little nice, interesting information with that. So, they have their little back and forth, and then he gets summoned in, and that's where we meet our other very well known, side character in the James Bond movies, M. M is played by Bernard Lee. He also does this for, I want to say 12. I have that information. We'll talk a little later when we do some of the trivia stuff. But this is where he talks with him, and M kind of gives him the scuttlebutt of what's going on in Jamaica, that Strangways and his assistant um, haven't reported in, and he wants Bond to go down there and investigate.
And then Q shows up.
He does, but it's not the guy that you know as Q.
Right.
It's funny. He actually isn't even called Q in this one. It's Major Boothroyd. And Major Boothroyd, and this is something directly from the books. And this is the little tidbit of trivia I wanted you to not be aware of until now. So Boothroyd comes in with the Walter PPK because Bond loves a Beretta.
Right.
And I mean, Boothroyd basically says that's a woman's gun. Bear in mind, this is 1962. Things like that were said. Nothing was thought of it.
Yeah.
We're gonna take it with a grain of salt. But
Well, I mean, you could just say it would fit in a purse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because women don't typically wear holsters around
Right.
and stuff.
so M makes him get
Switch
rid of
gun.
his Beretta and do the Walter PPK. Now,
He even makes him leave the
Yes.
Beretta because he doesn't even believe him, right?
Right.
But that's great I thought that was great to see because we all know he carries that PPK. So it's nice to see in that very first movie, how he gets it.
Right. So here's the little trivia tidbit. So that book, Dr. No, that was the 6th book. And that part is in the book where he has to trade out his gun. This happened because there was a real person named Boothroyd that wrote into Ian Fleming and said no agent would have this Beretta.
Oh, really?
And Ian Fleming took that feedback.
Yeah.
And he put it into the story of changing his gun and explaining
that's
why.
wild.
And that's why Boothroyd is called Boothroyd is because of that guy.
That guy? Oh,
Yeah.
wild.
There's this crazy behind the scenes thing on the Blu-ray where they interview Boothroyd, and he opens up this cabinet and he's got all these guns and targets and stuff, and he just shows you this is he goes into detail. It's only I think a 10-minute thing, but he explains why the Beretta sucked and why they should have been doing the Walter PPK. So,
and this was the time when somebody would actually write to somebody instead of just going on the internet and making 10 million comments about everything wrong with the movie, and that would never happen.
Right. Exactly. Exactly correct.
So he got the note and actually read it and could use it. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. So, M gives Bond his orders, go down to Jamaica, find out what happened with Strangways, see if he can get some information. Has a little more banter with Moneypenny as he goes out, but of course M stops that cold and basically tells Moneypenny to cut the crap and let Bond get out of there.
Yeah.
But it's more telling Bond to cut the crap and get out of there.
Yeah.
Bond goes home and senses an intruder in his house. So of course, Sylvia Trench is there just wearing one of his shirts.
As often happens.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly connected at the casino, so why not? Now, at that point, Bond's like, I got to get going. But then he's like, we have 3 hours.
But it's a Bond movie.
Yeah.
So that's not
3 hours.
Happen.
So,
yeah.
So let's go ahead. So there was a little slap and tickle. And for all those kids out there listening, slap and tickle, that's a kind term for sex. So talking about Sylvia Trench again, I just want to briefly talk about that actress. Eunice Gayson was Sylvia Trench. And originally, she was cast and she was going to do 6 Bond movies. She was going to be a prominent character. Yeah.
Because I noticed she's really barely in it. You think it's going to go somewhere, and then he just leaves and you never hear from her.
Right.
Okay.
She does come back. but she only comes back for one.
Okay.
But and it's actually one of the few instances of a Bond girl
Anyone
returning.
being in
Yeah,
more than one. Yeah.
until we get much later in the series. Okay, so at this point, James Bond flies off to Jamaica on the great Pan Am airline, I believe.
Yes. I loved
Good old
seeing
Pan
that.
Am.
Yeah.
And he arrives and is going to get a car, and somebody keeps taking his picture, so he's kind of on alert with that. And as he gets out to the taxi area, and I believe what is it, the white area is for unloading and loading.
Unloading passengers.
Oh wait, that's a different movie.
There's no parking in the red zone.
Yes. You want me to have that abortion? That's for my wife. She's a huge fan of the movie Airplane, so I figured I'd throw that in.
I mean, who isn't?
Yeah. I like it more and more each time I watch it. So anyway, he's there, and somebody in a uniform approaches him saying, here's your car, take you to the government house. And this triggers Bond. You can see, and that's good acting. You can see him kind of register that
Mentally processing. Yeah.
that doesn't
Did
seem
they
right.
really send a car for me?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he excuses himself and goes to call the government house, which, I mean, government house, I guess that's just kind of that's where the officials for the British officials for
Yeah,
the
I guess they
colony.
don't have an embassy if they already own the colony.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So he calls the government house and just lets him know he's there and everything, and then he asks, "Oh, by the way, did you send a car for me?" And the government guy's like, "No, why would we do that? It didn't seem like you'd want to, want fanfare or anything." So now he knows something's wrong. So he goes ahead, talks to the guy, gets in the car.
Which, the interesting thing is, of course, you can't unsee every Bond movie you've seen.
Yeah.
So when he gets in the car, you're not surprised. But of course, presumably, you'd think, well, why didn't he tell them? Some guy just said he was here to pick me up, and why would he get in the car? But of course, we know he's James Bond.
Yeah.
And, he'll be fine.
Right. And while all this is happening, there's another guy looking on. Mysterious guy. He's in a phone booth, and kids, a phone booth was this place where they had an iPhone that was attached to a wire, and you could put a quarter in a slot and call people from this phone booth.
There was no FaceTiming, though.
No, you couldn't FaceTime. We didn't have the technology yet. But so this mysterious guy's watching, and then he gets in a car with somebody and starts following Bond and the driver. And the driver, they're going down the country roads, West Jamaica. Sorry, that was a reggae song reference. They're going down these country roads, and the driver notices that somebody's following them. So Bond looks back and tells the driver to turn off, and they hide from him. The other car goes on past him, and that's where the driver guy for Bond is starting to look a bit nervous, and goes to reach for something in the glove compartment, and that's when Bond kind of roughs him up and tries to get something out of him, which unfortunately doesn't work out well for the driver.
No, but I did, when you watch the movie, you can't help but notice what fighting looked like in a movie in the 1960s versus what now it looks much more bloody and real. And
Right.
at the time, it was very tame fighting.
And it very obviously a stuntman.
Yes.
So, he knocks him around and then is trying to get him to talk. And the guy asks for a cigarette. Guy takes a cigarette out, bites it in half, and dies. I mean, what devotion this guy has that
Yeah, right.
gonna kill
I know.
himself instead of
I thought to myself, you didn't have to die. You didn't tell him anything. I mean,
right. So from there, James Bond continues on, drives and arrives at the government house. So he leaves the driver, the dead driver, in the car as he walks into the house and makes a nice little James Bond quip. There he meets with the government house representative. I believe he was called the government secretary. And that character is actually much different in the book. He's more of a jerk that doesn't want to do anything to help Bond.
no.
So I found that one.
They don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I really loved the military guy who comes in wearing shorts, though. I mean, it's Jamaica, right? But it's still.
Right. So from there, Bond heads to the he goes straight to Strangway's house to try to see if he can find any clues or anything. Doesn't really see much of anything. He does find a letter to somebody named Professor Dent with some test sample results. Then he also sees a picture of Strangways with a Jamaican gentleman who we will definitely get to later. Bond then goes to his hotel, and I think that's the part. It might be later, but he checks in, and the lady behind the desk is clearly checking him out as he's walking away. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
He's James Bond.
Yeah. But he gets to the hotel, gets his first vodka martini. So there's the
Yes.
first drink he pours with the Smirnoff. Actually, somebody pours it for him, that one for him. But he meets up with that Professor Dent that we saw in there, and then the other bridge partners, including one of them was that secretary at the government house, just to try to get some information. I think that was where they one of them may have implied that Strangways actually ran off with that girl.
Yeah.
It was probably Dent, if I remember correctly. It was Dent. Bond continues kind of investigating. Then he goes down to the water and he meets Quarrel, one of our first sidekicks of the Bond movies. Quarrel is played by a man named John Kitzmiller. And Quarrel was actually helping Strangways to investigate the islands around Jamaica.
He was the boat driver.
He was the
boat captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So him and Bond and Quarrel, they're kind of standoffish towards each other. Bond follows Quarrel to a little bar, and they go into like the back room, and Quarrel's back there, and the owner of the bar, which I have to say this name because it's awesome. The owner of the bar's name is Pussfeller.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So they are worried what Bond's trying to do. They don't know what his intentions are, so they kind of grab him and start to maybe fight him a little bit. And then the guy that was watching out at the airport comes in and takes Bond's gun away, and then they start to chat. And the guy mentions his friend in Washington, and then they both realize, oh, you're MI6 and you're CIA. So that his name is Felix Leiter. We will see Felix Leiter in many movies. I don't think we're going to see this actor anymore. I'm pretty sure this is the only time this actor does this. And this actor's name is Jack Lord. And Jack Lord is probably most famous for being in a TV show called Hawaii Five-O. Not the one from the 2000s. Apparently there was an original.
The real one. The one that was one of my dad's favorite shows.
That was that was 70s, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a great show.
So that was his main character, but he's good in this. He's pretty limited. You don't see a lot of Leiter, and you really don't for most James Bond movies see much of Felix Leiter, but he's kind of a nice American companion.
Yeah, he's there for the American perspective on things to be, shown up by James Bond.
Yeah. So now they're all friends. Him and Quarrel make up, and they're hanging around in the bar, and then all of a sudden that photographer returns. And this is one of those parts where we want to talk about things that maybe haven't aged so well. The photographer was given, they put like glue on her eyes to make her eyes, look lycanthric. I forget the word now, but basically to make her look like she is of Asian descent. Because
I honestly didn't notice that.
You didn't notice that?
No.
Yeah, they did it for her.
I thought she would have been Jamaican.
Yeah.
I did not know she was Asian.
And that's actually bigger part of the book too. They make a big deal about how a lot of the people are half Chinese, half of African descent.
Oh, okay.
They don't really spell it out as well in the movie,
right?
Other than with our main baddie here coming up soon.
Yeah. Okay.
She is, hanging around him again, and they're trying to figure out what her deal is.
Why she's taking the pictures.
Yeah, why is she taking the pictures?
Yeah, Bond
They
sends
they
someone to go get her and bring her
yeah,
back.
yeah, puss feller.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
puss feller. And they take her film out and everything, and she attacks Quarrel, takes like a camera bulb and smashes it, and then scratches his face
Yeah.
with it.
But I love how he just sort of is nonchalant, like, that's the best you can come up with.
Yeah,
They don't let her get away.
right.
And then they proceed to cause her pain until she tells them something.
And that actress's name is Marguerite Lawars, and her character's name was Annabelle Chung. So she's obviously up to something. Something else interesting I found out. I didn't really think about this, but most of the voices that weren't most of like the Jamaican people and other islanders and stuff, those voices ended up being overdubbed by other people. So
There was a lot. You could tell watching the movie there was a lot of dubbing. I mean,
mhm,
even the main actors, you could tell there were scenes where the audio was dubbed. Now, of course, there was probably a lot of noise. There are a lot of outside shots and
yeah,
things like that where they, might need to dub it and they didn't have technology like
right.
today. But it was noticeably dubbed in places.
And there were some cases too where it was, I mean, there were accents, and we'll get to one particular one later. But yes, all of her parts were overdubbed by somebody in Britain. Um, so, they take care of her, and they decide, well, we should probably check out this Crab Key place because that's the one island that Strangways was going to be going to, but hadn't gone yet. Um, so
We hadn't gone back.
hadn't gone back. Sorry, yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Because
He went there one time. He got a
he got the
sample.
rock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we should talk about that a little bit. The rocks were sent to Professor Dent, and
Yeah, we
Professor
see
Dent
that
said they were
later.
basically like fool's gold.
Yeah, yeah.
So they decide to go check out the Crab Key. Bond returns to the hotel. The three blind mice, as I like to call them, return, but they were going to try to shoot Bond. And the amount of times they try to assassinate Bond in this movie is pretty impressive. It's like 5 or 6 times that somebody tries to kill him.
Yeah.
So Bond's back at the hotel. Nothing really else happens there. Then he goes to visit Professor Dent, and that's where what we just talked about. He said
Yeah.
that the rocks were nothing.
Right.
So we're taken away from Bond for a little bit, and Dent goes to Crab Key, and he
Yeah.
meets. Well, he doesn't.
It
meet,
doesn't
but-
take you long to see that Dent is definitely in on it, right? They don't
yeah,
keep that.
Yeah,
a
they do
secret.
not hide that. And then he goes into this room, which I read that room, which is just like a big steel something with a little platform and a chair.
Yeah, and they
That-
tell him to sit down. There's just the voice overhead.
Yeah, that was like the cheapest set that they built on the entire thing, and it looked cool. It looked
It
like
did look-
intimidating and everything.
Oh yeah, would you want to be in that room?
No, definitely
with a
not.
voice, just an overhead speaker saying, "Sit down."
Right.
No thanks.
So Dent talk, and it's Dr. No. Dr. No's giving him orders. It's like, you need to kill Bond, and he gives him a spider. Of
The
course.
in the movies, the very beginning of the complicated ways to
Right.
kill James
Right.
Bond, the indirect ways.
Yeah. And I should say here that I watched Austin Powers before I watched most of the Bond movies, and it's hilarious because they, rip that stuff up in the Austin Powers
Yeah.
movies. I'm just gonna pretend it all went to plan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Dr. No just keeps like a bunch of these spiders around just in case.
Right.
I mean, he's got does he have a colony of spiders or other, venomous creatures that he can use to kill people?
Right. A little bit of trivia with the spider. In the book, it was a centipede, like a poisonous centipede, not a tarantula.
Yeah, tarantulas are not poisonous enough to kill anyone. In real life,
read
I
that
don't
they could be but it's basically somebody that's got like a pretty weak constitution. But
yeah,
even-
or they'd have to sting you like dozens of
Right.
times, right? But they, of course, look
oh yeah,
terrifying.
yeah.
So it's the perfect thing in the movie because no one watching the movie wants to get bitten by a tarantula.
Right.
So
And we'll get to that a little more too. I want to talk a little bit about the
Black
the
Widow
tarantula.
doesn't look as impressive, even though
Yeah.
probably deadlier.
Right.
So, the thing about the spider, so next do they take that do you see him getting in bed and that spider is,
Yeah.
in there,
So that is the
clearly.
next scene. So Bond is back at the hotel. I believe that this is when he opens his Smirnoff and then smells it and then decides, and then he
Yeah.
opens a new
And
one.
he looks at that little hair or whatever
Yeah,
he put on the
checks to see, yeah, 'cause
closet,
he
and
put
he
a hair,
sees that that it had been removed, so he knew
right,
something was going on.
right. So, he has his little drink and goes to bed, and then he wakes up in the middle of the night, and there's a tarantula crawling on him. So this whole story of this scene was pretty interesting. So there's a couple of parts where you see Bond like looking over his shoulder and the tarantula's crawling up his arm
And it looks like it's on a piece of glass.
because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is on a piece of
Whenever you can
glass.
see his face,
Right.
the tarantula's on a piece of glass.
Yeah.
Whenever a stunt man,
Right.
and you can only see the arm, and he alternates between very sweaty and not sweaty at
Right.
all as they switch back and forth
Right.
in that scene.
Yeah, that was an interesting little bit of trivia. I never paid close enough attention to think that spider was on a piece of glass or something.
Well, I could tell only because at one point you saw it reach its arms out, and they clearly did not go on its shoulder.
All right. But even the guy, the stuntman that did the parts with the spider actually crawling on him, he wasn't exactly thrilled about it. But Sean Connery refused. He absolutely would not have that spider touch him.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I get it. You got to protect the talent. It's like, I mean, it's not an unreasonable thing.
My son
to
would be all for it.
Oh,
He'll
yeah.
pick up a tarantula anytime.
Yeah, he did at a birthday party. I believe my
Yeah.
daughter held one too
Yeah.
at that party.
I don't think they're that poisonous, but they look terrifying. Granted, I don't want one on
Yeah,
me.
I did read they had 2 people on hand with like anti-venom
Anti-venom.
stuff.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, because it would hurt, right? They may not kill you, but it would hurt.
Right. So this is our first appearance of Bond's most useful gadget in Dr. No, and that's his loafer, because he
Yes.
throws the spider off and then takes the loafer and beats the crap out of it. I really like that part with the music that goes with it.
Yes, I was about to say the same thing, because like the horns just go right along with
Yes.
as he pounds it. That's where, like, a lot of times the music is kind of background, but in that part you're like, okay, they're actually watching the movie and composing music along with what's happening in
Right.
the scene.
Yeah, that was
outstanding.
Okay, so Bond goes back to the government house just trying to get some more information. This is where Miss Tarot comes in, who, once again, like I was talking about earlier, this is a non-Asian actress that was given makeup to look as though she
Oh,
were
really?
Asian.
Now, I really did think she was Asian.
Yeah,
I didn't.
her name is Zena Marshall.
Yeah, that doesn't sound Asian.
So this is where, after he talks to the government agent, he has to go out the back door because he hears like her like rustling right by the door, and he sees that she was right by the door, and so he clearly sees that she was spying.
And he tells her it's a dangerous habit.
Yeah. So that's at this point, Bond goes with Quarrel and Leiter to get the lay of the land of like Crab Key. They don't go to Crab Key yet.
But he plans to meet up with her, right? Like,
Oh, Miss Tarot, yeah.
yeah, he plans to meet up with her.
He that's after they,
because she's a woman and she's in the movie.
right. After they take off around Crab Key, he goes back to the hotel, calls her, and she invites him over. Because why not? I mean,
Yeah.
he's James Bond.
He's
again.
James Bond.
So Bond drives to the house, and then of course he gets chased by assassins. I think it's might be the same Three Blind Mice guys yet again. So this part, here's a little cool bit of trivia. So they're driving along with great special effects, where you can clearly tell it does not look like a green screen when Bond's straight on.
Well, when he actually gets hit, right, and he has to act like his car was getting hit, and then in the very next scene, his car is in perfect condition.
Right. And then the car that's hitting him sometimes looks like it's like 5 times his size.
Yeah, it does.
But you know what?
It's what they could do, right? I mean, it looked better than whatever they had before that, I'm sure.
So they have a little chase, and then there's this some sort of machinery in the road doing some sort of road work, which was not supposed to be there. They had no idea it was there. Now they didn't notice this as they were shooting the scene, but they saw the guy there and they're like, well, we can incorporate this. So they just had to make sure that the car would fit under, and then the car behind him would not, and it did, and it worked. But the guy that was working there, he was just, I mean, that was the guy that's in the movie standing
Oh,
next to Bond. Yeah.
that's excellent.
Yeah. So the other car goes off the cliff and of course blows up because they always blow up.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it
right.
has
Well,
to.
they were probably carrying like
Of
nitroglycerin
course.
or
Yeah. I
something.
mean, why not? That
Yeah.
was probably the next thing that we're going to try and kill.
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But this is where I think the best Bond quip of the movie.
It is. I wrote it down because I'm like, oh yeah, this is now we see what's going to happen.
Yeah, so the road worker asks him, what's going on, and he's like, I think they were on their way to a funeral.
Yes.
Just classic.
Classic.
It's like a dad joke. So it's awesome. I love them. Okay, so now he arrives at Miss Tarot's house and she's shocked to see him there.
I mean, it's clear that he knows that
Yeah.
she's going to try and kill him.
Yes. So that doesn't stop him though from a little slap and tickle. I mean, you're there.
I
you might
mean,
as well.
this is James Bond,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing how many women who he knows are trying to kill him.
Yeah.
He's still willing to do what has to be done.
Right. So after that, they decide that they're going to go have some dinner or something. And he walks her out and there's a car there.
Well, he calls a taxi.
Oh, I'm sorry. He calls a taxi. Yeah.
Yes.
And the taxi arrives and it's the police authorities of whatever.
The government house,
Yeah.
military guy.
Right.
In shorts.
So they take her away, and this was funny. She tries to she spits on him in the movie as she's getting taken away, and she said she was terrified to do it. The actress was that she didn't want. She'd never spat. She did not want to spit on him, but it worked. It looked
manners.
Yeah, exactly.
There were manners back then.
All right. So Bond goes back into the house and fluffs up some pillows to make it look like somebody's in bed, and then plays solitaire. Like he literally.
I like that
solitaire.
part. He gets the cards out. Like I wonder if those are like government issue,
Right.
Cards for stakeouts.
Yeah, not a euphemism. He's literally playing solitaire. And so then some mysterious figure comes in and shoots at the pillows because why not? Just use them all up. So
Well, I mean, it's a better plan than the spider.
Yeah, it's a little more direct. It's like, why didn't you just do that in the first place?
Exactly.
It's like
if you can get in his room, why didn't you just shoot him in when he was in his own room?
Yeah.
Because he'd be dead by now.
It makes me think of Austin Powers. Look, I've got a gun in my room. Bam, we'll shoot him.
Yeah.
Do this together. You just don't get it, do you, Scotty? Okay. There's gonna be a lot of Austin Powers talk on this.
Yeah.
So
might have to be a special episode.
Yeah. So of course it's Professor Dent, and he gets startled by Bond because Bond was hiding behind the door, and the gun gets dropped, and it's on like a blanket, and Dent is trying to
pull it back over,
get it over to him,
yeah.
And he does,
yeah,
and then he shoots at Bond, and it clicks because of course it's done, and then that's the second greatest line in the movie. A little quip from James Bond: "You've had your six."
Yeah, that's a Smith and Wesson.
Yeah. It's also what my wife says to me when I try to pour another whiskey. You've had your six. Okay, so now
Speaking of which.
Yeah. We are back to the boat with Quarrel and Leiter the next day. Leiter lets him loose so that they can paddle to Crab Key.
Now, Quarrel doesn't want to go because of the dragon.
Yes, and this, another little piece of trivia, or just a comparison to the book. They make Quarrel in the movie to be a bit more naive, and he like believes it's a dragon.
Yeah, he's more like just a local guy who happens to be a captain helping the guy out, right?
Obviously.
Yeah,
in the book, they were like Strangways and Quarrel were like closer, and he was
almost
more
like
a
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he knew what was going on, and he was part of the spying.
All right. So they arrive on Crab Key. They're on the water and looking around, trying to get the lay of the land. And lo and behold, our most famous Bond girl of the movie walks out of the water, and that is Honey Rider, played by, she was just a model at this time, Ursula Andress. But she also...
Because why isn't a bikini-clad woman on this secret island that no one's allowed to go to collect conch shells when right on the part of the island where James Bond shows up?
Right. So I talk a little bit about her now. Ursula Andress. She had never acted. She was terrified of messing up, and she's the one. All of her singing and her speaking were all overdubbed because she apparently had a pretty thick accent that was hard to understand. That's just kind of crazy to think that
That is crazy
they
that all
cast
her
somebody like
lines
this
were
that
dubbed, yeah.
doing all that dialogue and everything, and then they have somebody else record over it. Just fascinating. So we get there's actually a lot of time spent with them running around on Crab Key. They hide from the guards and use like bamboo straws to breathe underwater.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Good plan.
And then they elude some of the guards, but they do have to kill one of them. And then it's getting later, and the dragon appears, which is some sort of flame throwing tank of some sort. And Quarrel goes out to shoot at it and gets toasted. And
Okay, Quarrel is not even really aiming. Like, he's kind of holding the
right,
gun, but he is not putting his eye up to the sight
yeah.
and trying to aim at all.
I mean, maybe he's like Bond, and he just
But Bond is like, okay, you shoot the driver. Oh, okay.
right.
Yeah, that'll work out. I'll shoot the driver in this tank who's
Yeah.
inside this metal thing.
Right. So, there's a bit of a scuffle, and then they're both captured and taken to what I like to call Dr. No's bed and breakfast. Because this starts a trend in James Bond movies where the villains are always so
They're so
gracious.
accommodating
Yes.
and gracious. Yes, they're such good hosts.
Yeah, they get, first they get decontaminated because the water that they were fooling around in earlier was nuclear.
And by the way, the different colored outfits of the people who doing the decontamination, right? Like, obviously these people work in the like blue section, and these people have the pink outfits on. And I mean, obviously, they have a procurement office,
Right.
and they order these, and they, do it by rank or by what section you're in.
Maybe this is a good time for you to talk about the henchmen.
Well, yes. So I was going to talk about it. One of my favorite things about these movies is like how many henchmen have to be employed in all of these processes. Like, all of these plans that they're fighting are so complicated that they need hundreds and hundreds of people to run this thing. So I can only imagine like the recruitment process and what these people think they're doing,
Right.
joining this. And when he gets to the guest quarters, right, there are these women who take him to the room and drug him. Like, so, you're thinking, do they know what they're doing? Do they know that they're providing guest quarters for people who are the enemy of the people they're doing? Do they think that the guy they're working for is a good guy?
Right.
Do they know he's a bad guy? But it takes a lot of henchmen to run these operations.
Yeah, you got all that nuclear stuff. I mean,
yeah. And all these people, you wonder, what are they getting paid? What is their motivation, right? Like the guy who eats the cyanide capsule, like, he's a driver. I mean, is he really in it enough that he's not a spy? They have to have a lot of people who are quite dedicated to whatever this cause is.
Right. I mean, if I were Airbnb-ing that place, I'd give it 5 stars up till the drugging.
Yeah, the drugging probably.
But you get a good night's sleep, so I guess that's not terrible.
No, and I mean, they give you great outfits. Right? They got closets full of clothes, and the accommodations are beautiful.
Yeah. As long as you don't mind like somebody just coming in and looking at you while you're passed out.
I know, right?
That was funny.
Doesn't that already happen at Airbnbs?
Right. We'll never know. So now we'll talk about a section I like to call "And Keep Your Enemies Closer." And so we see Dr. No for the first time. They're taken into, again, a nice, dining, lounging area where they're about to be served dinner.
And I enjoyed how unnecessarily automated the doors were in that place.
Right.
I mean, because it's so hard to use a door handle. There might be a reason that door handle technology hasn't changed in like many hundreds of years, because, but they have to push buttons and things to like make the doors open sideways into the wall through automation. Right. And I can only imagine the actual humans inside that wall as they're filming the movie having to like pull back on a string probably to make those doors open and push them back when they're trying to film the movie.
So this is where we see Joseph Wiseman as Dr. No. Honestly, not terribly intimidating. He's got these metal hands because he lost his hands in an accident. But kind of a short guy. Not nothing crazy. The book, that's
Kind of
where
reminded me of Young Frankenstein
nice.
with the hand.
Yeah. But in the book, he's like 6'8".
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
In the movie, he's half. I believe he's half Chinese, half Russian.
German.
I'm sorry, German.
German.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Not a very intimidating guy, but they all sit down to dinner, and they kind of have their little back and forth. I mean, basically, Doctor No, he's kind of a wimp. He's just been rejected by all these important places like Russia and the United States. So, he's in this organization now called Spectre, Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion. I mean, that's just true advertising is to just, that
It is.
this is exactly what we're going to do. Now, the books, he was just he was working for the Russians, the
Oh,
Soviets.
okay.
So, I mean,
He
obviously
wasn't
we're
just
still
on his own. Yeah.
yeah, it's 1950s,
Very
big
Cold
Cold
War.
War. I think
Yeah.
they were trying to ease tensions with the movie, so they made a fictional, organization. So they have their little back and forth.
By the way, did you notice that he told James about his little lair there costing $1 million?
But he didn't do the pinky thing.
He did not
If he'd
do the
have done
pinky thing.
that would've
But
been
clearly $1 million was a lot of money at that time.
right. So Dr. No, I think, is trying to like recruit him. He is.
It seemed like
yeah,
it. Yeah.
He wanted
like trying to flatter him
Yeah.
about how smart he thinks he is.
Yeah. And then he basically, which this is a recurring theme that he calls him a stupid cop or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and a lot of people kind of downgrade James Bond's true knowledge and how smart and sharp he really is. And they just think he's an idiot and just working for, Queen and
Well, he's a
country.
government employee.
Right. Yeah. So at that point, Dr. No realizes he's not going to get anywhere with Bond. So he has Honey escorted away. It's heavily implied that she's going to be taken advantage of. That pisses Bond off. But Bond ultimately is roughed up and put in much worse accommodations. Now, these are like 1-star Airbnb accommodations with
clearly.
like a cot and an electrified gate or something. But
Yes.
fortunately, he had his trusty, favorite gadget that he used earlier to dispatch with the tarantula. He uses his loafer once again to
Bash it in.
yeah, knock out the electric gate. And there's a pretty extensive scene of him going through all these pipes and stuff that I don't know exactly what
so
these pipes are doing.
He's in the air vents,
Yeah.
which for some reason have a ton of water flow through them at one point, and he has to just duck down and the water flows over him,
Yeah.
posing no real danger to him.
Right.
But he comes out another air vent like in the house.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why is there a big flow of water flowing through the air vent? Like it could come out the vent
Right.
into the room. So I can only imagine that back in the day, there would have been plenty of internet people.
Maybe at that point they were like, we just don't have much budget left. Let's just get this done.
And we need some kind of peril for him in
Yeah.
this air vent. What could it be? Well, a bunch of water flows down and he ducks his head down, the water goes over him, and then everything's fine.
Right. Okay, so now we're at the point where Bond dispatches with some random stooge guy that was just walking around and takes his uniform, which, I mean, the guy looks like he's like 6 inches shorter than Bond, but the uniform fits him fine.
Yeah, it works. He looks great.
So Bond sneaks into the command center, and we see the Dr. Evil outfit. The Dr. No outfit,
Yes.
which is exactly the same as Dr. Evil's.
But how excellent is the command center?
Oh, it's awesome.
I mean, it's so good, all the parts. And what I loved was that he obviously had signs made to hang from the ceiling to say like that this is the guidance computer section of the room, so people don't get lost when they're in that room.
Right.
And he has labeled every section of the room just in case people need to know.
I mean, that command center was probably 900,000. So now you know why they have those weird pipes that the water just.
That's right,
Because
because
they
they didn't have much left.
Yeah, they
to spend
just
on
didn't
that.
have left. So
Well, I mean, building a nuclear reactor, that would cost
Yeah.
a bit. But what I enjoyed was how they decided to place the nuclear reactor right in the same room where they will all be working
Right.
at all times.
So if there's an accident, you're
Put
screwed.
it right here.
Yeah.
Let's just put it right here. We'll sit over here about 15 feet from this nuclear reactor. Just put the rods in the water
Mhm.
right there. Everything's good. And, you know, for part of the movie, I was wondering what because he finds out those rocks were radioactive. You know, there's a whole thing where he finds out the boat's radioactive, the rocks are radioactive. And I was thinking, what does the nuclear have to do with anything?
Right.
And it turns out it's just there so he can have electricity on that island
Yeah.
to run his machine.
Right. Well, the good news is that he has all those signs, so James Bond knows exactly where to go if he wants to sabotage everything.
Yes, exactly.
So-
this is the machine where I turn up the
Yeah.
power.
Yeah, you just turn this one wheel and it just screws it all. And you
I
know,
know.
he
The little red bar goes
Yeah.
up into the danger zone.
Yep. And so, you know, one guy tries to fight him off. That guy was worthless. So
No, I mean, come on.
I will give it to Dr. No. He went at him himself. He didn't
did.
send anybody else. He just went, and it was kind of a fair fight for a little bit. But, you know, of course, Bond's going to win. Kicks him into the nuclear water, which I guess was so radioactive.
Probably not good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm guessing.
That probably killed him pretty quickly.
Thank goodness they kept that water right there, 15 feet from where they actually run the command center.
Right, exactly. So at this point, the whole layer is going to blow. Bond is racing out, doesn't know where.
Okay,
Hunt
but
is.
when he pushes him in,
Yeah,
he's standing right next to the machine where he could turn the wheel down and turn down the nuclear reactor. And I wanted to yell at him to do that so the island doesn't blow up, causing some kind of radiation emergency that makes Jamaica uninhabitable for like the next 200 years.
Right.
But he doesn't turn it down because
no.
he, then you don't have a good escape.
In the movie,
Then he just like walks out.
Yeah, Lighter just
He walks out and everything's
he
good.
turns it off.
The
Lighter
military
walks in,
shows
done.
up.
Yeah.
They arrest everybody.
Yeah.
It's all done.
He's got to rescue Honey,
I know.
and he doesn't know where Honey's at. So he finds some random, concierge lady from the bed and breakfast to help him find Honey, and they find her in a room where she's for some reason just like chained to the floor, but it's like a sloping floor that goes into the water.
Well, the water was rising.
The water was rising very slowly.
Yes. Well, I mean, you don't drown her immediately.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. So here's the bit of trivia of that though. Originally, there was going to be a bunch of crabs around her pinching.
Yeah,
her.
because they're on the Crab Island.
Right.
Yeah.
But during production, they flew the crabs in because they got them from like, I don't know, somewhere in like Northern Europe or something. And they were frozen. So they were like almost dead. So they put the crabs out there and they were just like barely moving.
Just
around.
sitting
It was
there.
just
It
not
didn't look too scary.
Too scary. No. So, they just kind of wrote that off and went on with it. So Bond, gets her out of the chains, has a little tussle with somebody, takes a boat, and just in time gets away as the whole layer explodes.
Spreading nuclear
Right. We'll just
radiation.
ignore that. We'll just say that's how that got turned off.
That won't be a problem.
Yeah. So this is where, and this is only going to happen in this movie. You'll never see this happen again. James Bond is on a boat with the Bond girl at the end of the movie, having a little slap and tickle.
Well, I mean, he did just rescue her and save her life.
He did.
Which he got her into the trouble in the first place and almost got killed just because she met him. But forget that part.
Right. So Leiter comes along, they find him and tie him, to pull him along, to pull him back to safety. Bond, he doesn't care if he's going to get dehydrated or starve or whatever. He sets loose that ship and just stays on the boat with Honey. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. Happily ever after. I'm looking forward to keeping count of how many times that happens. I know at least 3 more.
Yeah, I remember.
It's pretty funny. But that's it. That's the whole movie. So,
well, what I liked was obviously, they had a formula, and you see so many aspects of the formula of everything you're going to see in every Bond movie from then on in that movie, other than we're obviously going to see more gadgets as time goes on. But you see basically all the elements. You got the beginning credits, opening theme. You've got the the song. You have him saying Bond, James Bond.
Yep.
He's gambling, right? There's plenty of gambling in these movies.
Right.
I always wonder, like, how is he gambling like all this money on his government salary? Like, is he actually just rich? Is he a good gambler because he's a spy? Is he just enjoy?
I mean, he is clearly very good at baccarat. He was wiping the floor with Sylvia in more ways than one.
Right. But yes, he seems to have whatever resources he needs money-wise to gamble large sums of money in various of these movies.
One thing that, and we discussed this a little bit, there's no like opening gambit in this one. I mean, because, it's the first movie, of course not. But most of the movies from now on, you're going to have the gun sight, with Bond shooting and the blood coming down. And then you have like a scene that may or may not be related to the rest of the movie. I'm pretty sure the next movie does have one. But this first one, they just kind of go straight to the movie.
But still, for the most part, they knew what they were doing from the very beginning.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of called By the Numbers. And these are courtesy. I found a really cool website. They have a podcast too. I didn't listen to it because I didn't want to, think they were stealing. Nobody will ever listen to this one anyway, so it's not a big deal. But the website is the JamesBondDossier.com. A lot of cool information on there. So the movie was actually released October 1962 in Britain. It's released May of 1963 in the United States. It costs about $1 million to make, and it made $60 million. Adjusted
Not too shabby.
Adjusted for inflation, it made $550 million.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So we have 25 mainline Eon-produced James Bond movies. It made $550 million adjusted for inflation. It is the 20th highest grossing of 25. Which just shows you the show.
Once they did the first one and keep doing them, people sort of find them out, right?
Yeah. So, and I believe to this day, one of the Daniel Craigs is number one. I want to say Skyfall. So, but we'll get there. So now we'll do a little section called Trivialities. And I kind of did most of these throughout the episode, but just a few things. Monty Norman was the composer of the theme. That's the theme we hear in every movie, and there's little variations. Something I didn't really make a connection with, but I listened to all of the theme songs for each of the movies a few weeks ago. They incorporate that James Bond theme somewhere in most of them, which is really cool.
It's just so good.
Yeah,
the guys who did that. And did you know that it ends on an E minor major 9 chord?
And this is why Charlie's here, because he can say all this music stuff,
which is
I don't understand.
Almost the same chord that Henry Mancini uses at the end of the Pink Panther theme, but it's also sometimes known as the danger chord, because that chord at the end sounds unresolved and a little bit like you don't know what's about to happen. Right? It doesn't sound real comfortable, and they end it, and then of course you go right into the movie.
Right. Better than the brown note.
Clearly.
So the name James Bond came from a book Ian Fleming saw called Birds of the West Indies. He felt that the name fit well, calling it suitably flat and colorless. Because, I mean, look, Bond is...
He's a spy.
Yeah, he's a spy.
He's not an actor.
But, Sean Connery, I would not say is suitably flat or colorless. But,
no, but...
he's great. I love Sean Connery. I think he's great as James Bond. The origin of the 00 prefix, which means you have a license to kill, that was taken from British Admiralty, where all the secret agents had 00 prefixes.
I did notice in one of those opening scenes in MI6, they did explain the 00, right? They're like, oh, well, since you're a 00, you have a license to kill. To get that out of the way so we know he's allowed to kill
people. I think
people.
they said that in with him in this one.
Yeah,
they said at the beginning.
Did. Yep.
So we talked about the overdubbing. There was a lot of that. We talked about Spectre. Talked about the crabs, the dead crabs. Here's a fun little piece of trivia. Now, when you go to Dr. No, when they go to Dr. No's, whatever, dining room, whatever you want to call it, there's a painting there. And it's a painting of like some sort of like royalty, not royalty, but, like a duke or something like that.
Yeah.
By a painter named Goya. That was a painting that was stolen in real life in 1961. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Anyone who actually was educated or knew about
Right.
that, which people probably would have known at the time because it only happened 2
I
years
bet that
earlier.
joke went really well, went over really well in England. I bet they thought it was
Right.
hilarious
Yeah,
because I think it was stolen from a British museum.
probably. Because those guys collected like everything from the whole empire.
Right. Yeah.
So,
It was all just given to them. They definitely didn't like
sure.
pilfer it. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So
They're just borrowing it.
Right. So let's just talk final thoughts a little bit. I mean, the more I watch this one, the more I actually love it. I think it's a great Bond movie. I mean, it's not the best, but it's far from the worst. I think that most stuff aged all right. Obviously some of the stuff you won't do anymore, but you just got to look at that in the,
At the time, it
at
was
the
normal.
time, yeah. I have the Blu-ray of it. The Blu-ray looks really good, but I will say I rewatched it with my wife and daughter on the digital 4K, and I was blown away.
Oh, really?
It looked amazing. Sound is a little weird at times, like when Bond and Dent are in the house, there's like a weird echo and like the shots kind of sound weird, but
Yeah.
these are small things.
Well, I mean, they only had so much technology at the time because obviously, things like sound effects were not recorded in the scene, right? They go back and do those later. And so they only had certain technology at that time.
Right. So I use an app called Letterboxd. I'm sure that all 3 people that'll listen to this are familiar with Letterboxd.
Yeah.
I would rank this. I give it a 4 out of 5.
You mean your wife and your daughter?
Yeah. My daughter is now on Letterboxd. She went on there and logged a few movies she watched recently, so that's fun. Now I got to make sure I watch myself and some of the smarmy things I say on some of my reviews. But I give Dr. No a 4 out of 5. What about you? What are your thoughts? Any final thoughts?
Well, like I said, every element is there that you expect to be in a Bond movie from the very beginning. And so, yes, I think it's well done. Connery, I mean, the way he acts, his confidence in every scene, no matter how much danger he's in, knowing that he's going to be fine and he will find a way out of it and everything, it's all there right from the start. And I think it's really well done, right? You definitely see where the series is going, so that some of the effects are going to get better at it as it goes. But the story is good. It's well done. I mean, I would say it's a 4 out of 5 as well.
Just so you know, with Letterboxd too, you are able to give half stars. So
future
reference.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll have to download the app. I'm one of those people who doesn't actually have it.
So this is going to be ongoing where we rank the movies as we go.
It is the best so far. Yes. It is number 1.
That is an actual fact. That is 100% true.
So as we go, we can just sort them by where the new ones fall in relation to the ones we've seen before.
Well, stay tuned for the next one. Okay, so just a few other things I wanted to discuss, and it really just about the book, because I thought the book was really good too. I mean, I think the book's also a 4-star out of 5 on Goodreads if you use the Goodreads app, because I have an app to rate everything.
Mike, it's almost like you like to rank things.
I know. Don't tell. There's a podcast I listen to called The Rank Kings where they do that. I'm really just doing this to,
of course,
get them to listen to this, and then they'll have me on their show. So one of the big funny things in the book that was different, the first drink Bond has was a gin and tonic. It was not
gin.
Yeah, it was not a vodka martini.
Oh my gosh. Blasphemy.
Like I said, Quarrel is much more fleshed out. He's more of a
well, that makes sense. I mean, you have more time for that stuff.
The funniest thing from the book, though,
but they had to make the dragon believable too in the movie, I think, right? So they sort of had to have him really believe in that dragon, so that you're wondering, what in the world are they talking about?
Yeah, and Honey was a bit younger in the book. Like I think she's like 18 in the book. She's like 26 in the movie. She was definitely not.
That's more palatable.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely something in the book that did not age too well. Look it up. She calls it slave time.
I see.
Honey calls it slave time. So
excellent.
You can look it up from there. There's a lot of guano talk in the book, or maybe it's bird poop. Is bird poop still called guano, or is that
I think guano? No. I think the guano is the part of what it is.
Yeah.
And the bat is describing it.
I mean, the way I
Dr.
read it in the
Strangelove.
book, the guano was like how he was funding everything. This guano was so important.
Maybe it's fertilizer or something for
Yes.
somebody. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what you'd use it for.
And I guess we didn't really talk about it, but what Dr. No was trying to do was
Oh my gosh, we forgot my
Yeah.
favorite part of the movie.
knock the space shuttle off track.
Okay, so they go in the control room, and it's time to knock the rocket out of the sky,
Mhm.
right? So the rocket's blasting off, and he tells his guys to turn on the radar thing. I forget what he called it in the
Mhm.
movie. Okay, and they have this outside shot of this big pillar, and the top opens up, and something's going to come out of the top. And out of the top comes like a tiny DirecTV satellite dish, which he needs a nuclear reactor to power, apparently,
Right.
so that it can shoot down that rocket.
Nice.
It was that part. I'm waiting, right? They make you wait. That door opens up and you hear the sound of like an elevator, a thing, hydraulics pushing the thing out the top. And it's a tiny little satellite dish that comes out of the top of that thing.
Right. So yeah, that's kind of the big stuff from the book. But the best line in the book that was not in the movie. Dr. No, you're still a man who sleeps and eats and defecates like the rest of us. I think that's a good way to close out the episode.
I think so.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. All 5 people that are going to listen to this.
Wow, you're optimistic.
I know. I mean, that's including friends and family. So, I mean,
I know. Well, people who are still listening right now to hear that about 5 people listening to it.
Yeah.
I mean, some of our family might start it.
Right. I mean, the guy just talked about bird poop. What is
Right.
going on here?
It's great stuff. They won't get to that part, Mike.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Bottled and Bond. If you'd like to send us a message, you can do so at bottledandbondpod@gmail.com. That's the word bottled, the letter N, bondpod@gmail.com. Next time we will be discussing From Russia with Love. Until then, pour yourself a drink, light a smoke, and find yourself a spirited companion. Goodbye.